All right, so this thing needs a lot of work. In the last video, you saw that we bent the back straight or straighter. However, we need to cut the whole rear end off of this thing. This thing needs to become a full-on like rear radiator, big duck club, soft fiberglass rear, not solid metal rear, in about 3 days. So short period of time, we're running all radium stuff. We've taken the fuel tank out because I've actually collapsed some of the stuff underneath there. So fuel tank's coming out. We're putting the radium fuel cell in it. We're going rear mount radiator in it with a set of small fans on it. And we're moving the battery from the back corner, putting anti-gravity in the middle, basically behind the passenger seat to make it nice and light. We also have to put a firewall in it, and we have to replace obviously the glass rear window with a fiberglass rear window. So I have a lot to do in the next 3 days, kind of show you guys how we're gonna go about this. I don't really know, but we're just gonna kind of wing it and build it as good quality as we possibly can, as quickly as we possibly can. So it's about 9 a.m. in the morning right now in California time. I'm gonna start cutting the back of this thing off and cut the hole for the fuel cell first. But in order to do that, I have to pull the NRG seats out, which are right here. And we're gonna take those guys out to give me room to measure the hole for the back for the fuel cell. And we're gonna start cutting it out. So let me show you guys basically that, and let me get to it. So this is NRG's new carbon seat. It is amazing. We actually kind of helped work on this thing, but the main reason for the carbon seat is that it gives you a lot of feedback immediately. So there's not a lot of padding in it, which is totally okay. But I actually take out the bottom pad even to get a little bit lower and to get a little bit more road feel on it. So it's nice and rigid. It gives you all the feedback you need. We obviously accompany it with the Garagistic. Basically, the reason why we use these mounts, let me move these are ride-along tickets. So ride-along ticket bag from Fuel Fest and a couple other events, LS Fest. But anyways, so this also is a billet aluminum part from Garagistic, and it's super, super rigid. So why we do that is we do not want any flex, and I want to know exactly where this rear tire is on the ground. It's funny because once I went to the carbon seat and the Garagistic floor mounts, I can literally feel when the rear tire goes over like a line of paint. That's how much feedback we now get from the chassis. So super cool there. We might have some body panels that are in here. If we get enough time, we're actually going to change the cage too. So this, most people don't know, but this is my street car. So solid metal doors, solid metal everything with power windows, everything works. So we're gonna try and make it into a more comp friendly car, and I don't like the cage being so close to my elbow. So if I have time, I don't know, but if we have time, we're gonna cut this cage out and put this out into the door and put some Big Duck Club fiberglass doors in it. I think the doors are about 80 pounds, and the fiberglass ones are about maybe 5. So we can lose, around 70 pounds, 73 pounds by removing these big heavy doors. I mean, look at this thing when it shuts. So, she's a real door. All right, we're gonna cut this out, or we're gonna move this. I need to move it. Look, PPK Patrick, he paints all of our helmets. This is a glow-in-the-dark custom wheel he made me for SEMA. Super cool. He brought it down, flew down from Canada, and yeah, all of his work is super top-notch. It's all hand-painted, same as our helmets, which is right in there. So thank you, Patrick. Love you, man. Appreciate you. Thank you for all the cool stuff over the years. But yeah, we're gonna be removing the seats. Give me room and give me access to get to that back corner section. So the seats have been removed. I have a lot of vacuuming to do because when we graded it, the glass went everywhere. This is actually after the team already vacuumed all this. But move the fire bottle over there, just kind of out of the way. Make sure you always have your pin in the top of the bottle too. No matter what happens, put the pin in before you move the bottle so it doesn't explode on you. Ask me how I know. Mainly I got covered in the Safecraft stuff. The good part is too, hey, if you guys get a chance, use Safecraft because there's actually no of the foam stuff, so it doesn't damage all the electronics. Ignore my little, wiring cut right here. That's something, that was all fuel pump stuff that now there's no fuel tank in here. So that guy's already gone and we're ready. We're gonna put the fuel cell right here. Okay, that seems to be the best weight for these cars, is to get the weight down opposite of the driver as low as possible. And then we're gonna move we're gonna put an anti-gravity battery right here to make it nice and low to the ground as well. I know it's not a whole lot of weight. Next plan is Safecraft guy is gonna go right here. And then this side should be open. I don't know if I can fit anything in here, but at least this side will be open for it. And we're gonna have to remove this e-brake line. So the reason why we run the e-brake lines like this in kind of a more stock car with a stock fuel tank is because if you run it this way or under here, then you can't take the fuel tank out because the fuel line the brake line's underneath it. So it's not very convenient. So we run it right there and then tee it off. And it's actually like protected from the drive shaft hitting it because the fuel tank is kind of cut like this. So fuel tank basically protects that guy of getting damaged. You do have to be careful though, because I've set a tire on it or a wheel on it, putting them in, and you can bend them. But other than that, that's probably like the safest spot that we found so far. If you have better ideas, please leave me a comment, let me know, but that's just where we run it. We just run it from here, boop, straight down there, and then right down the hole. So, next part of this, radium. These guys are awesome. I've been using them for many, many years, and this is their newest FCST. This is, I believe, the FCSTX. Oh yeah, FCSTX. And what makes this the X version is that instead of having to take all these bolts out to get to the fuel pump and get all the way around, you can now just pull these 3 out and these, I think, 5 out. Oh, maybe 6. Yep, 6 out. And then you grab this handle here and pull up. And when you pull up on this handle, the fuel pumps and the whole setup and the lift pump and everything comes out as one big unit with the surge tank. So it goes whoop, and you can work on it right there. So super nice unit, super easy to work on. They've always made phenomenal stuff. So this is a smaller one. This is the one, basically this is their smallest unit, I believe. I think it's a 6 gallon or 8, I think it's 6 gallon. And it's their smallest one. The reason why we use it is so it fits in that little spot. So let me get this thing out and set it over there. So the idea is for this thing to go just like this, but down in the hole. So obviously we're not going to have it this high up because that's not going to support or serve anything, any purpose. Plus this would be extremely hard to kind of cover. So we're going to drop it down. Edge of this lip is going to be right here across there. And then this side, I'm going to have to build a little box for it and a little box for it. And I run it really simple. I literally just run a rail support here, rail support on the back, and a rail support this way. And then this lip just bolts in right through this piece. So that way it's kind of tight into the chassis, it's nice and low. I do put a bar underneath the bottom of it to support, like, basically cradle the bottom. But I get it all down, dropped in the spot, and go from there. Also, because we are drifting, most of the time stuff is moving around in the back. If you notice, the fuel, there we go. These guys are in the back side. So I always try to put as much weight kind of back here, centered over the axles as possible. And this guy's gonna drop down here. This guy's gonna turn this way and then go through the firewall up to the back to where it's going to be up there. We're cutting this whole rear deck out also, but this guy's going to be up there in the back corner so I can fill up the car. I would love to be able to get it out the factory hole. I don't think I can, but because I like filling up in the factory location. It's a lot lower, so you don't have something on your shoulder. But I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it on this one. I've never actually tried, so maybe we're going to try and see if we can get it there. But I'm going to cut the hole in this, get this down, and then we're going to have to start cutting out. They call this thing a package tray. So I would like to cut out this package tray, but that's on a later step. So let me mark this up and then start cutting. I'm just basically going to take a Sawzall or a grinder and just cut a square and see if I can get this thing to fit and drop right on down. So here's the piece that I cut out of it. There we go. And this is what it looks like once you drop it in. So I decided to actually turn it sideways because when I was measuring it, it's 15 by 13. And I figured that it would fit better this way than the other way. So let me show you how close it is though. I also got really close to my brake line, which was kind of scary, and close to the trailing arm. But I did make it in one cut, and it does actually fit in one cut. Obviously I'm going to clean it up with a floppy disk. But let's check this out. So when you're cutting this thing, there's a couple things to watch out for. Obviously drive shaft, which drive shaft is right here. So I have plenty of room on that. But look at how close this trailing arm is. So the trailing arm and trailing arm pocket is literally right here at this corner. So you have to watch out for that. And there's a brake line underneath right there that you don't want to hit either. So watch out for the brake line, watch out for that. There's nothing up here that you can worry about. Like, it's all empty up here. And watch out for drive shaft and for this guy. So this is basically, I cut right through that bolt and it ended up fitting very nice and tight and kind of cleanly. So just make sure when you're cutting stuff, cut it on the thin side of the they're not dimples, but whatever those things are called, spot welds. So you'll notice there's spot welds right here. You don't want to cut into these spot welds, and you don't want to cut into these spot welds. This is what holds the whole subframe and all that together. They're already weak on 36s. You definitely don't want to make that any weaker. So I actually got really lucky. My first cut was the cut that everything fit. I know it's a little wonky there. I'm just going to flappy that a little bit and smooth out all these edges. And then we're going to drop this guy back in without the bag on and see where we need to line it up to get it semi-flat, and then figure out what bars we need to make. So like I said, I normally make a bar that goes straight back there from that side, and a bar that goes straight back there from that side, and possibly even one that goes across in the back. So let me figure out how that's gonna look and what it's gonna, what we're gonna do with it. So I smoothed all the edges out, and then I got it mocked up with a tape measure in the back just to make it, pretty much as flat as I possibly could get it. It seems to be the right height. And then I took one of these guys, which is basically just a 1x1, very simple. And we're gonna put this, the idea is right here. So I need to trim the nose of this, like the little bottom part, to get it to slide under there. But this is gonna go in there, slide under there. These two are gonna bolt to this. These three are gonna bolt to this. And then I'm gonna take another piece of the bar and go from here to the back. The reason why I don't go straight across the back with it is because when I go to lift it up, it has to tilt this way in order to get out to clear this piece. So it has to come like this and then out. So if I put a bar in the back, I go boom, and I can't get them out. The only reason I know that is because I did one earlier this year and ran into that same problem. So this one's good to go. We're gonna do these two sidebars. Let me adjust this and get this all welded in. I decided to use the 1-inch bar that I was talking about earlier and basically cut it to notch right there. There is a little bit of a gap here, but it's because the body actually like tapers up there. But it is nice and flush in the rear, and it goes over here and it sits in this pocket quite well. So it just naturally kind of like notched into that little pocket area, and it sits this way. Whoop, there we go. It tapers right up there. So that's how I'm gonna weld this thing in. Just weld it there, here after I clean it all up, and then it'll be bolted in here to the metal bar. The 3 bolts will come in here right across the front, so that'll pick up the front of the chassis. So the only bolts that won't be tied into anything are these 3, just so I can get this fuel cell out. And then what we're gonna do on the bottom is build basically a strap on the bottom to support it from the bottom as well. So basically with it bolted in with all these bolts and the strap on the bottom, we shouldn't need to bolt those last 3 ones in. Should be good to go. But anyways, we're gonna check it all out and get this welded in and then see what the next step of this is. Okay, so we got this all welded in. That's good to go. And kind of, I missed a step, but I also welded this battery box in. So this battery box is for the anti-gravity battery. It makes it nice. And I cut a lot of the middle part out of the battery box because we're not gonna need all this because the battery doesn't weigh anything. Like, this is probably the lightest full-size battery I've ever felt. So super nice and light, easy to hold, carry, and will go in nicely. So that will save me a lot of weight because I'm big on saving weight in this car. So I cut the middle out and I cut kind of the box at the top out of that and a little triangle out of the front just to lose some weight there. But then what we're gonna do now is we're gonna take these panels off, mainly because they're destroyed, and start cutting the back of this car. So I need to cut this all out, and then we need to, per Formula Drift rules, don't know if this car will ever go to Formula Drift, but if it does, we need to keep this window trim and window tray. So this part of the window must stay. So I tend to keep this part, and then I keep this because the trunk sits nicely on this little rubber part. So I'll just cut the rubber part here and here. It's already kind of bent anyways, and save this, and then we cut this right on this side. So I leave the stitch welding so it stays together nice and tight, and then I cut right down this edge all the way around the whole thing, and then this whole top will come out, and that whole package tray all the way around will cut out. It is much easier to do this without the cage in, but I'm not gonna cut the cage out because the cage is good. So we're gonna cut it out, do the best we can, then we're gonna cut all this out, all this out, all this out, and all that out, and hopefully this whole rear will kind of just drop off as one piece. This taillight is definitely not worth saving because it's destroyed in every way, but this one is still freshy. And this is the side of Irwindale. So this will probably get destroyed next round, but I wanna save it because it looks nice. All right, so we have unbolted those, which that was the easy part, and then I've cut the back of the race car off. So the car looks very naked like this. It's kind of cool with the color fade to black though. I don't know why I like that, but that's kind of a cool fade thing. So this is one side, and this is the other side. And I cut it off as one piece, but then I couldn't get it out the door. So we cut it in half, and now I can manage to get it out the door because it's actually quite a large piece. But this is basically the line I cut it on. It's kind of a natural line right through the vents. So vents straight across, vents straight across. And the reason why I cut that one like that, because that's how this one is going to be as well. However, if you look, this is still quite bent this way. So the idea was to put a bar in here and a hammer and hammer this guy back straight again before I chop it off. Because if not, I'm never going to get these bends out of it. So we're going to try and bend this back first and then start going. And I have my buddy Jake from Fab School, so he is over to do some some hammering and some fabbing. So fabbing is the next part of this, but we gotta get it straight before we can start welding on it. So let me start banging this thing back. So this is all the stuff we've cut out and all of that. And I think it's good for probably maybe just this stuff, maybe another 30 pounds. So the package tray is missing. Look, all of it from out here. It is all out, all the way across. So kind of nice. How are your hands?
Oh, they're itchy.
So yeah,
it's shaking.
the bad thing with the Sawzall is that it shakes a lot, but it gets it pretty nice and clean. We're gonna come back with a floppy disk and clean it up, but yeah, that's how it's looking right now. We're gonna clean it up and be good to go. Then we gotta get the radiator and everything else in. So if you look, we've been able to flatten this out really well. Got that all nice and smooth. Got this side all nice and smooth. So next what we're gonna do is we're actually gonna be taking this piece of metal, which is a 1x4, and the 1x4 we're going to take it off and put it across the rear shock, or the rear, basically the right side and the left side of the car. So where the normal impact part of the cage is, that's where we're going to put it across. But yep, a 1x4, and it'll go in. So that's the next part of this. So now I've taken the flat bar and welded the flat bar in. So basically what I did was just weld it straight all the way across as much as possible. Now you are going to have a gap here, which is totally fine. So this gap is right there, and basically what you can do is you can either fill it with a piece of metal, like steel, and weld it in. I chose to do aluminum. I haven't done the aluminum yet, but I'm going to try aluminum this time. And the only purpose of this, honestly, is just to block it off so you don't get smoke up through there to the backside. There is a brace here. We're just kind of mocking it up so it's not actually installed or anything. So I take that guy out. I just want to make sure everything cleared before we kind of move forward. So this is what the setup is. It'll look like that. I'll get this thing probably Zeus fastenered in, but the main part is finishing welding this guy, making this in, and then these are the tabs I made for the radiator. So super simple tabs. I need to clean them up still. They're very sharp, but I just kind of welded them in. And what they do is they sit on the bottom of the radiator in this little trough. So that came on the radiator, so I'm basically just gonna take that, slide it in here, and then I need to make some tabs or something up here to bolt it in somehow. So that's kind of the next part with this. And the reason why I made the tabs like this was so that basically the radiator can't slide this way or right and left. And all I used was basically leftover scrap metal from when I put basically I just used the leftover scrap metal for the box tubing I used for the fuel cell, for the radium fuel cell. So I did this and then I just cut basically a notch out of it, like right here where my thumb was, and then it slid right down on the radiator, so it was perfect. Okay, so I decided to go with a super simple tab setup. So basically just a 1x8 flat bar just bent at a 90, and then I put a riv nut in the radiator. So the reason why I didn't just weld a tab up there was because I needed the tab to come all the way back here like this so that it captured more of the actual material. Because if you just put a tab, it can tear off pretty easy. But this is super strong and solid, so it just runs straight up there, runs 90 degrees down, and captures the front of the radiator. I was gonna put it out here, but it didn't give me a whole lot of room to work with, so decided to move it in, put a riv nut. It was nice and solid there. The problem we have now is I have these push lock fittings, right, -16, and this is where it needs to go in, which it goes on fine, except for then it hits this. So I drew a circle with a Sharpie, and we're gonna hammer this all in until this guy clears and comes on and off nice and easy. Okay, so I don't know if this is good news or bad news, but I basically hit it one time with just a lightweight dead blow, and it bent in a lot. Why I say I don't know if this is good news or bad news is because that means it's probably pretty weak. I mean, I can actually flex it with my fingers. But hit it one time, clearance, and then look at this. Nice and beautiful. So clearance, no problem. It's easy to get on and off, and yeah, you can go from there. Next part of this is I have my radium box here, right? And all kinds of goodies, which we're gonna get to in a second, but this is the filler neck for the fuel cell. So fuel cell's down there, and I've always done them up here just because it's easy and it's way out of the way of damage. However, I kind of wanted to keep it like streetcar-ish, so I'm gonna see if there's a way I can make it come out right here. Obviously not sticking out, but nice and flush. Maybe even behind this cover. I don't know if I can get it to kind of sit in there. But the only issue is then I'm gonna have to find a way of getting plumbing from here through, out, around, and then back down to that. So I'm gonna put that other bar back in here and then see if there's a way to kind of plumb the rubber hose so it's out of the way of everything, but I can also use the OEM filler. And the reason why is because up here, it's a lot of work to lift it up and hold the fuel up on your shoulder for the time it takes to fill. So if you can fill it from right here and then lean over and watch the rubber hose, it makes a lot more sense to us. So I'm gonna try and do that, see if this will work. If not, no big deal. We're gonna go right up here then. I got this thing unwrapped, and this is actually Radium's new fuel filler setup. So this thing's super cool. It's all billet back here. And it just looks kind of updated. It has these little chamfers in them, make it a little bit, actually it seems a little bit lighter actually as well. So they always come with a foam pad here, and they're super smart. They always notch this out so that if you're in a weird situation, you can still get this on and off without having to slide the hose off. So yep, hats off to Radium. They make it all the good ideas. They also have this hole here, which I didn't know what it was for, but it's actually for a tether. So you can tether this to a bolt, and then you can't lose your fuel lid, because we've actually had one lost and we've actually had someone steal one. So this is good to know that we can put a cable through there, and I think they give us the cable, and then yeah, that way the fuel falls down and then you can see it before you go out on track and realize, hey look, something's dangling, let's put that back on so you're not sloshing fuel everywhere. All right, let's see if this thing fits. I think it will. All right, let me take all of the stock OEM stuff back out. Let's see what happens. So I decided to go this way. So we cut a hole in this, and then I put a little rubber grommet. And the idea is to go from here, this way, under the bar, through there, and then out of this guy. So I need to finish plumbing this and put the piece here, but this is what I want to do. I've always wanted to keep it like OEM spot or location, so I'm going to do that. I'm probably going to set it back some though, so that, you know, if we or when we crash, it won't damage it too bad. So that's what I have for here. I just put this pump back together. I had to do some welding on it. So I welded the ends on it like that, just some -16s on both sides. And then what I'm gonna do is figure out where I need to mount this guy so that I can basically like weld it in and then make it so I can go down that way with the coolant lines. Also, I have to keep it in a fair distance away from this plug, because that's how you fill the rear end. So let me put some lines on this and kind of measure where I think it's gonna go, and then I'll have a better idea. But I need to make a hole somewhere right around there. All right, so hot pit is tomorrow, and we have a little bit of work to do on the car. So obviously, you know, we stuffed the back of the car into the wall, totaled the back of the car. So we decided to just build a full pro car. So here we go. This is what we got going on. So we got Brian up here in the Matt Field outfit, trying to put a hood on because the hood was all messed up. So he's making the new fasteners, the arrow catch, and doing that. Everything underneath is still kind of taken apart, so that's the next part of this. We have doors, so these are big Duck Club doors. We need to like do final fitment on them, but they are on. Inside is pretty much going back together. So the fire suppression system wasn't there, so that's in. There was no fuel cell, so that's the fuel cell now in it. And Jake is putting the battery terminals on and that back together. That's our battery box. We have to do like final fitment on that. We put a big Duck Club dash in it. And look, this is my only dash right there, that little guy. So hopefully that'll work. We haven't started it. We haven't tested it yet. We also put a dog box in it. So that was a major part of this. Like literally doing a dog box from a normal ZF is a huge upgrade. This guy over here in his SR car told me we should do it. What? Yes. Yep, that guy. So dog box in it. Then I had him build it because we were on super crunch time, and this guy builds amazing rear ends. So he built this guy. So we now have a winter's quick change in this thing. All Wisefab. So the only Wisefab stuff we had before was upper arm and lower arm. Now we have the trailing arm as well. And yeah, he built this whole entire subframe. So now there's a full rear subframe in this thing. So now we're Winters, quick change, and dog box, just because like the bottom of it was all destroyed. So we figured we might as well just, if we're gonna do it, we might as well go full out. So we decided to go full out, and we took the radiator from the front and put it in the rear. So now we have a radiator in the back. It is not wired up. I'm trying to finish wiring up the lights and everything back here. We need to build a crush structure. Oh yeah, by the way, it's already 5 o'clock. So it's 5 p.m. and we have to drive tomorrow morning at 10. So we have to build a full crash structure. We have to finish all the rear fiberglass. There's no trunk, there's no nothing. This stuff is like kind of mocked up. It's not really on. So we need to finish that. I need to finish wiring tail lights because those are required, and build a bash bar and build something for the bumper to be held up on, because that's necessary. We have not tested all this, so there's a lot of radium stuff on this, which it's the same system we use on all the cars, but this one is, I don't know, this is just kind of cool. This is like a new fancy little deal. So we have that, put a rear pump in it, ran the lines down through the bottom, so the rear mount radiator now plumbs to the front, which I'd show you the front, but obviously he's cutting into it and trying to fit the hood. And check it out, for the rear mount or for the fuel cell, obviously we had to put a fuel cell in it, and I plumbed it this way right through here, but I don't like it when it's like up here, so I put it in here. So you go into the factory location, boop, and then you still have the fancy little guy. So this guy in the factory location, kind of cool. Don't know if anyone else has done it, but that's kind of what we try to do there. We're finishing up the rear windows. That's why there's still marking and writing on these, so that we can put the side windows on. The rear window is done, which is nice. There's a fuel cell capsule that goes on top of this. So that's kind of the next part there. Then we get to put the interior back in. So all the seats and all the other fun stuff. What else has to happen? Oh, we need to mount tires because our tires are completely gone. And I heard the track's pretty abrasive. Let's see. Anything else you can think of?
You need seats.
Oh yeah, we need seats and harnesses. That's, yeah, NRG. Yeah, that's definitely something we'll have to figure out how to get on. Oh, and side skirts, because I blew them off. These side skirts are for Connor's car, so we're not going to run that, obviously, but we're going to have to do some kind of side skirts. And I changed all the cooling stuff, so these are some coolant lines that have to go on in here once he's done. Oh, and some of the water spigot stuff is over there too. The front end is pretty together. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, and a rack.
Oh yeah, that's steering rack.
We gotta change the steering rack. So we gotta do a steering rack as well. That's our list of all the goodies. But yeah, also on a rack. So wish us luck. We're gonna keep going, and I guess I'll show you some updates as the guys thrash on this and as we try and get the whole thing finished up. Oh, and I need to put a keypad somewhere because there's nowhere to turn the car on yet. Oh, and I need the head padding up top too. All right. So we might have more things than I thought. Oh, and we have a leaky bug spray or whatever this is. Something for the wife's car. Oh, bug removal. So anyways, all right, we'll get to it. This place is thrashed, but that's because we've had to put all this bality panels. We've had to do everything basically today because we just got back from the long drive to Seattle, and this guy had to drive the team back home. What happened with that scenario, buddy?
CrowdStrike is not a good company apparently, and then everybody's flights got canceled, and they're going to be stuck in Salt Lake City for 3 or 4 days, right? Something like that.
Yeah, it was bad.
So then we started driving to California instead of Seattle with the rest of the team.
So the other car, Connor's car that was supposed to go to Seattle, is now down here in California with us. So instead of driving both cars to Seattle, he took one down with the rest of the team so the whole team could actually get home. And I took the other one up to Seattle and then flew home. That's why we're home late. But yeah, so that's a next week adventure because Seattle's coming up shortly. But we'll get on that at that time. So let me keep thrashing on this thing, see what we can do and see how far we go. That's okay. All right, so we got it together somewhat. Or at least we think we have it together. So front end's back together. We got the doors on. They open and close. We got this on. We got the Big Duck Club body kit in the rear. We got the trunk on. We got the bash bars on. Yeah, everything is good to go. We filled it up with water. The inside's on. The seats are in. It's dirty, but it's okay. So the seats are all in. Steering wheel's on, everything's good to go. We didn't even bother unwrapping the floor, so we're just gonna leave it like that. And it's good. However, we found out we needed to change the rack. So we changed the rack, and as my boy Brian was down there diving around looking at stuff, he has a photo for us. He's like, hey man, you wanna weld your subframe back together so it doesn't fall off? Cause that's not very good. So yeah, but maybe you need a little more maintenance on this thing, make sure it's not completely destroyed. Look at how big that crack is too. That's bad. So yep, that's the whole front end. So it took him and this guy a little while to get this thing all
It welded and it held it.
and it held it. We're gonna test him tomorrow. This is a fab school guy, so we're gonna see how well this weld is. But he did say that was his first time welding upside down, especially on a race car. So yeah, we'll see how that turns out. But I think it'll be fine. He's a great welder. So we'll see. Yeah, it's either gonna be great or it's gonna be bad. It's gonna be good. So any last thoughts, Sir Brian? Now that it's like 2 in the morning.
Let's go to bed.
All right, bedtime. We gotta get up in a couple hours. We drive at 10. Driver's meeting I think is at 9, so we have to get up in like 5 hours. But we're gonna get there. We're gonna make it happen. And Sally is hopefully back alive and ripping now that it's got all the body panels on. She looks like a good car. So we have to add fuel to it too. There's no fuel in it, so we have to add fuel.
Fuel for leaks.
Yeah, we've not checked the system for fuel leaks either. That's all gonna be in the morning when we fire up. I don't want to fire up right now because it's 2 o'clock and I don't want to piss off the neighbors. But we're gonna be good. So we're all going to bed. We're crashing out. These guys thrashed all night and all day, but we made it, and we're gonna head to the track tomorrow. So that's the update on Sally. She's in mini colors, no side skirts, but she's back together.